This is a video to react to the news that Duco Events, Joseph Parker's promoters, today won the purse bids for the WBO heavyweight title fight between Hughie Fury and Joseph Parker. The fight, as I understand it, will take place in New Zealand on April the 1st. I'm going to start by saying, as regular viewers to my channel will know, I suspected that Frank Warren would win the purse bids, and I suspected that this fight would come to the UK. I got that wrong. Quite a few people in the videos that I posted suggested that they thought that I was wide of the mark. So, you know, I'm one of those people, if I get something wrong, I want to hold my hands up. And yeah, I got this one wrong. So credit to you if you were one of those people who always thought the fight would end up in New Zealand. I'm going to give credit to Joseph Parker's team, Duco Events. I think they did a very, very good job for their man here. I think securing him home advantage in a fight of this nature is pivotal. And the fact that they are putting investment into their fighter is extremely commendable. And I'm going to say well done to the people in New Zealand, because you've got a fantastic, fantastic fight headed to you in April. So massive something to look forward to. What I'm going to focus on for the rest of this video, I guess, is twofold. Firstly, how this actually affects the fight, which we'll come on to first. And secondly, how this news was received from a UK fan perspective, because obviously a New Zealand fan perspective, this is excellent news. So first and foremost, let's talk about the fight. Long-time viewers will know, I think there's a high probability this fight will go the distance. Joseph Parker's got power, but as he stepped up in levels, as he's fought Cam and Ruiz, the two guys on his resume who you could make a solid case for being in the top 20, we found that he's gone the distance. Maybe it's that as he's fought a higher level of opposition, he's found it harder to land big power punches. Or maybe it's just that as he stepped up towards the higher levels of the sport, his power that he showed against, you know, journeyman and gatekeeper opposition hasn't quite carried through. We see that quite often in the heavyweight division. Hughie Fury is also a guy, well, no, I mean, Parker's got more power than Hughie Fury, but Hughie Fury is a guy who's not known as a power puncher. He's got a good shot to the body, but realistically, Hughie's a bit like Tyson in the sense that he's more of a craftsman, he's more of a technician, he's more of a chess player, as opposed to, you know, the athletic style heavyweight who's going to come and knock you out with one punch. So my suspicion is that this fight will probably go the distance. You know, neither of them have shown explosive power at the top level of the sport, and neither of them have really given us any concerns about their punch resistance and durability. I'm not aware of either man ever being dropped into professional ranks. They both seem to have at least semi-credible chins. So I suspect this is a fight that goes 12 rounds. And because of that, in a fight that could potentially be a close fight, judging is always going to be at the heart of it. Now, I'm not for 1 second suggesting that just because the fight's in New Zealand, just because Joseph Parker's promoters are, you know, running the show, that it in any way means that the fight is somehow going to be fixed and that the judging is going to be poor, because I don't believe that to be the case. However, I would always say that having home advantage, you know, in a fight of this nature, does help with the judging. And the reason I say that are the more subliminal factors. So, you know, if Hughie throws a punch and it lands and the judge can't quite determine whether it lands, you know, the whole crowd is silent. Whereas if Joseph Parker throws a punch and the judge can't quite determine whether it landed, the crowd is going mental. So as a result, I believe that sometimes in very, very tight rounds where it's hard to score, a judge may be more in line with siding for the home fighter, especially if a lot of the people in the crowd around them seem to be under the impression that, you know, that home fighter is well ahead. And for me, it's a definite positive for Joseph Parker to have the fight in home advantage. Let's be honest, Joseph Parker's last two fights, to Cam and Ruiz, were fights where there was some debate over who won the fights. Now, funnily enough, I scored both of those fights to Joseph Parker, and I actually think the judging was pretty much spot on in both of those fights, so you're not getting any complaints from me. What I would say is we all have to acknowledge that there is a substantial school of thought from numerous boxing fans and boxing experts, etc., that Joseph Parker lost both of those fights. A lot of people believe that the Cam fight was a draw, or that you could maybe slightly edge it to Cam. I disagree. And a lot of people think Andy Ruiz won the fight against Joseph Parker. Again, I'd be inclined to disagree. But both times in fights that were controversial and fights that were close, Joseph Parker has got the decision. And, perhaps that's proving my point that I'm saying, that having that home advantage is always to a fighter's benefit. So, that's why I'm giving a shout out to Joseph Parker's team for getting home advantage for their man and investing. Purse bids, by the way, just as a point of interest, Joseph Parker's promoters bid $3 million. Frank Warren, Hughie Fury's promoter, bid $2.8 million. The split is 60-40 in Parker's favour. So Joseph Parker, based on 60% of $3 million, off the top of my head, I think that's $1.8 million. And Hughie Fury getting 1.2. So I presume these are career high paydays for both. These are life-changing sums of money for both. And, that's good for the sport. And this shows the direction New Zealand boxing is going in, because, it was big news when, Joseph Parker was first getting $1 million paydays when he was fighting the likes of Cam and Ruiz. And, his earning potential is going up and up. And it is proving that whilst there isn't the money in New Zealand boxing on the whole that there is in UK boxing, Joseph Parker's creating such a stir in New Zealand boxing that the money is actually getting there, to a competitive extent. I mean, for a top fight in the UK, a Joshua versus Martin, or Joshua versus Klitschko, I presume that the amount of money required to bid for a fight like that is 6, 7, maybe even 8 times what we saw the purse bids today. But nevertheless, Duco Events won this fight. They won it against UK competition in Frank Warren, so I'm giving them credit from this. Now, from a UK fan perspective, I'm going to say I was disappointed to hear the news that the fight was going to New Zealand. Frank Warren, who is Hughie Fury's promoter over here, has just secured a new deal with with his TV company Box Nation to be broadcast on BT Sports, which supposedly was the dawning of a new era for Frank Warren, and the real option for his fighters to get huge exposure. And I would have thought, with that deal just recently being announced, and given the fact that this is a chance for him and one of his highest rated prospects, Hughie Fury, to fight for a heavyweight championship of the world, I would have thought they would have thrown everything at it in order to secure this bout. And for me, a bid of $2.8 million, I'm not saying that's not a lot of money. I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't bid slightly higher. I think it would have been very, very key for Hughie Fury to get this fight to the UK. I would make him a more substantial favourite if the fight was over here on these shores. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that paying $3.5 million to get the fight over here would necessarily have been a profitable move. Hughie Fury isn't the biggest ticket seller over here. He isn't the biggest fan favourite. His style is one for the purists, etc. Having said that, for me, this is the opportunity to make him into a fan favourite and to make him into a big name. And winning the heavyweight championship of the world on BT Sports could have taken his profile to a whole new level. So whilst I'm aware that it would be hard to bid $3.5 million on the basis that it wouldn't immediately be profitable, I personally think if the funds were there to do it, it should have been done to secure home advantage for your man and to invest so that his profile is higher and the chance for him to go on to huge money fights and big unification fights if he wins is stronger. Let's be honest, and this is from a UK fan perspective only, but if Hughie Fury goes and outpoints Joseph Parker in New Zealand at 10 in the morning over here, he's hardly going to cross over to the casual fans any more than he's done already. So what I'm getting at is, for me, this was a missed opportunity. It was a missed opportunity to put a huge feather in the cap of the new BT Sports deal. It was a missed opportunity to get home advantage for your highest rated prospect in a heavyweight championship of the world fight, and it was a missed opportunity to change Hughie from a guy who's largely flown under the radar to a guy who could potentially have become a much better known boxer overnight. So for me, from a UK fan perspective, I'm very, very disappointed. And I think Frank should have been aware that it was foreseeable that Team Duco and Team Parker would have thrown everything at it in order to secure this fight and secure home advantage for their man. So I think he could have done more. Now I know with a purse bid situation, the bids are sealed, so it's always a difficult situation because you don't want to bid 5 million and find out that the next bid down was 2 million and you've kind of overbid 3 million by for the sake of it. Having said that, if you look at the way Parker's profile is built and look at the amounts of money that were bid for the Takam and the Ruiz fight, I think a bid of 3 million from Duco was at least somewhat foreseeable. It's the top end, don't get me wrong, it's a very strong bid from them, but it was foreseeable. So, if at all possible, I would have tried to have bid a bit higher. And I'm a bit frustrated that that hasn't happened. As a huge Hughie Fury fan, I cannot stress enough, but I think him boxing at 10 in the morning, I presume just on the Box Nation channel as opposed to the BT Sports channel, that really isn't going to help build his profile, amongst the UK casual fans, and it's a missed opportunity. It's possible if Hughie wins that Frank will have a heavyweight champion of the world who hardly anyone has even heard of in terms of the non-boxing public, and that's becoming a bit of a theme. How many of your non-boxing mates have heard of Terry Flanagan, who holds a version of the lightweight championship of the world? How many of your mates had heard of Liam Smith when he was the light middleweight championship of the world? I'm just saying, more needs to be done. It's not just about winning belts, it's about building profiles and building careers. And for me, it's a missed opportunity, that. But once again, I got this one wrong. Duco came out stronger than I expected. The UK, Frank Warren, didn't come out as strongly as I'd expected. Although, I'm not saying 2.8 million is a bad bid. I think it's actually a fair bid. But I think it could have been stronger. Clearly it could have been stronger because Duco bid higher. We're going to talk about this fight a lot in the build-up. We'll be doing keys to victory videos, tactics videos, final prediction videos, etc. So, there's plenty of time to discuss how the fight goes. But what I will say is, if you are a Joseph Parker fan, your man's chances of winning this fight, for me, increased somewhat with today's news. I have to give credit to Duco for winning it off the back of that. Anyway, I've rambled on enough here. Leave your comments in the section below. Let me know your thoughts on any of this news that's broken today and how you think it will affect the fight. If you've enjoyed the video, take the time to press the subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. This is a fight that I'm going to be talking about a lot on the build-up. I'm very, very excited for this. I think it's an excellent fight. So please take the opportunity to press subscribe so you can check out my future content. Many thanks indeed for watching, guys. I appreciate it.